Welcome back to another episode of Recreation Rendezvous at the junction of nature and play. I am Julie Ramey with the City of Bloomington Parks and Recreation Department, and here in the podcast studio today we have a very special guest, Priscilla Barnes with the School of Public Health Bloomington, and an expert in all things community engagement and public health. Priscilla, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining us today. Let's dive right in. So we talk a lot in the parks and recreation field about parks and public places and green spaces as being crucial to the overall health and well-being of a community. Now, you've spent a career talking about things like that. How do parks contribute to community health?
Oh, wow. Personally, for me, being a military kid, parks are everything. When you think about going from community to community and you have a dad that's active, like he has to do a physical training exam, right? In fact, he had me out there training with him at the age of 5. The place we went to were parks because part of his physical training was run a mile, do a whole bunch of push-ups in a minute, and sit-ups. So where were we doing that? After he finished his mile, we go to a park. So personally, parks, they have a special place in my heart. As a professional, oh my gosh, when you think of the spaces in communities where people live, work, play, and pray, parks, for the most part, are present in communities. Most of them, to my knowledge, are free and a great open space for kids to run and play, for people to also have social interactions and activity, and really cultivate a space of what community means. And so I just think there's this really strong intersection between public health, which is the people's health. When you think about personal health as individual, but public health is all of us. And then when you think about the connection of parks, not only do you get the opportunity to move, but parks are also a space where you can meditate, where you can laugh and congregate with folks. So parks to me are everything in public health. It's one of the key spaces where we can live, work, play, and pray and have a good time.
Well, and you touched on it a little bit there that we get some feedback from people in our community and, I don't have kids. And, parks and playgrounds, they're for kids, right? How do you communicate? How do you tell people that parks indeed are these kinds of places for everybody, the young at heart, or
absolutely,
maybe just members of the community?
Well, fun fact about me, I don't have kids. And here I am showing my enthusiasm. Hopefully y'all are catching it for parks. Parks are for everybody. Parks don't discriminate. Whether you are older, younger, single, married, that's the beauty of the park. Everyone can congregate. Now, for me being a person that doesn't have kids, how am I going to form community? I went to the parks because you have all kinds of people from different diverse parts of life that congregate in a park. So I would push back on folks that say, oh, I don't have kids. Hey, it's for everybody. Open spaces for you to get to know people, spaces for you to move freely. They're just amazing spaces that I think are underutilized in most communities. They're a magical space.
And gosh, and don't even sound too traumatized doing PT since you were
Not
5 years old to do push-ups in the park.
Just a little bit. But that's the thing is my dad always brought a gift of play to whatever we did. Now, he's a serious man, but he also knows the value of what health has done to him personally outside of his job in the military. And so one of the things my dad taught me was the importance of not only like there's a time and a space where you have to be prepared for physical training exams, but don't ever forget the importance of bringing in a sense of play in your life. And so even as he was prepping for those physical training exams, my dad always knew how to make it fun. Also in parks, another cool thing, tennis courts. My dad, I feel so sorry, but shout out to my father. I probably was the original Venus, but because that was one of the things he wanted to gift his kids. So we went to parks because they had tennis courts. Now they have pickleball courts. So again, my dad just with a racket and a tennis ball took us to an open space, the park, to teach us this young Joe, 5 years old, how to play tennis. So again, he just had this amazing gift of making things fun. And that's what I remember about parks. It's a place of fun. It's a place where I first learned how to run hit a tennis ball. We also played basketball. We also swam. There were some parks that had swimming pools. But we also met some really cool people. And as you can imagine, being a military kid, we were on the move every 2-3 years. So the space where we built community was in the parks. Julie, you getting me started down. I know I'm saying a lot, but I just think parks are a space that really do promote public health, the people's health.
So what is it about parks? If you had a megaphone to just stand on the corner or stand in the middle of a big open green space in one of our parks and shout a message, a public service announcement about this park, about a park, what would that be? What would you be shouting to the skies, telling the world about their community parks?
Just one message, huh, Julie? First thing I would say is, come one, come all. Move, baby, move. I mean, you don't have to be restricted in how you show up in a park. Some people love to walk. Some people like to bring their own equipment to the park. And what I love is there's always free open spaces, picnic spaces where you could just come and have a good meal. Come one, come all, move, baby, move is probably what I would say. Because I just think when we're in a space, in community spaces, there's a difference between movement and exercise. And I think sometimes people compact the two. Exercise to me is probably where folks work as hard as they can for 45 or 30 minutes.
Sweaty.
Get all sweaty.
Oh, yeah,
and then hate moving because they think exercise and movement are one and the same. Movement to me is how you show up. Move, baby, move. Whether some of us like to walk, some of us like to strut, some of us like to jog, swim, jump. That's the beauty of movement and parks. You just show up with the best gift and the best way you want to move. So if I had a megaphone, show up, move, baby, move, and how you want to is what I would say to all the people in our community. And we are so gifted in Bloomington. I mean, right when I thought I knew all the parks and trails that we have, I don't. I was challenged coming on to this podcast. Priscilla, what's your favorite trail? I was like, oh, I forgot they have names. But that's the one part I love about Bloomington. We have such a wealth of outdoor resources that you don't have to show up with money. You just show up with yourself. And so what I've been telling folks is, do you know even the name of your park? Since I was challenged, because I live in the Clear Creek area, got a beautiful trail right in my own backyard. All I got to do is put my running shoes on and move, baby, move. Go walk, go run, whatever my body wants to do. Some of us have playgrounds. Banneker Center is another, even though it's not a park. Around it, it's parks if we step out our door. So I just think we have just a whole wealth of resources in Bloomington that many communities don't have.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that. Here in Bloomington, we have 41 park places.
My gosh.
So, yeah, and most people can rattle off 5 or 6 or maybe 10, but
that's amazing.
We do have a wealth of places to go. And what I love that I'm hearing you say is that you don't have to be a fitness buff.
No.
You don't have to be an exercise crazed person. But hey, if you are, thumbs up. Awesome for you. But what if you just, what is it about parks? What if you just go and sit on a bench?
Love it. Meditation, I think, is another spot. Physical health is a beautiful thing, but there's many dimensions of health. Spiritual health, mental health, family health. And so even if folks don't want to bring the rigorous movement of exercise, even showing up and just taking a seat on a bench or a picnic table and just taking in the air, because there's some communities, they don't have good quality air. We do. It's not too bad from the last I checked and sat on a park bench. But to me, that's health too. Health is wealth. And it shows up.
I feel like I'm maybe kind of dissing on our fitness folks out there. So, hey, thank you for inspiring us, right? Every time somebody passes me or, I see somebody coming and they're working really hard. That's inspiring to me too. So, again, shout out to all of our fitness folks. But even though, the people that are maybe using a walker just to get out and
You show up how you
enjoy
need to
the
show
air.
up. That's right.
Yeah, I love that idea. So I probably worth saying too, if you want to know more about these 41 park spaces, to check out our website, bloomington.in.gov/parks. And you can find all of our parks and play spaces, how to get to them, where they're located in the community. And you touched on it at the beginning. You're absolutely right. Most of them are 100% free. And a goal for our city is to have a park within walking distance of every home in the city. And we're getting closer, but during COVID, people were coming out in droves because there was nothing else to do, right? You couldn't go bowling, you couldn't go skating at the roller rink. You were forced. Oh my gosh, for the first time ever, forced outside, and what a boon that was for our parks. So I think parks play a role even in things like that to keep people connected, so that you see there's other people in the world, that social aspect too.
And if I may add, being at a university, parks are a great classroom for students too. I love the opportunity we can get our college students, who are some learning public health, but those that are not, just to open up the parks as the classroom of the day. You just see the students move, breathe differently, and are inspired to see spaces don't have to be in a classroom, but spaces can be in a park as well. So I just love the fact that we have such an amazing resource that's available for all folks of all different walks of life, that I just hope many people begin to take more advantage of.
Well, let's play Budget Berry.
Oh,
so pretend
boy.
that you have this blank check.
Okay.
And you can make a play space, a space anywhere in Bloomington, and you can put whatever you want in it. What kinds of what would be your ideal perfect space?
Wow.
It's that blank check thing, isn't it?
I love that. No, I'm going to come at this from a different perspective, because I know typically, I know people think I'm an expert, but I hope that I'm more of a facilitator than an expert. And so if I had a blank check, what I would love to do is bring youth, older adults, even the working adults to the table and say, hey, y'all, you have a blank check. Number one, if you don't have a park in your own backyard, what would that park look like? Functionality for you individually or your family, like you create the park. And the reason I'm going with that approach is my background is more of how can I get more community partners together to co-create and collaborate on something that's going to inspire communities to be more healthier. Me being the expert, I don't know what everybody likes or loves. But if that blank check was available for people in Bloomington to come to a table and figure out what works best for their neighborhood to create that park, that would be the first thing I do with that check, is get a bunch of people together and they tell me, ooh, youth space. Wouldn't it be cool if we were able to let the youth decide what they want that park space to be like? And then the older adults, like you said, Julie, sometimes maybe someone's looking at someone to say, oh man, I wish I could move that way. But there's so many depths of health that we haven't even begun to tap into that works for some of our older adults. And could we envision that in a park? So my blank check would go to the community. We come together and we figure out what works best for you, and we create it together. That's what I would do.
Fun. And I hope everybody that's listening right now is thinking to themselves, oh yeah, I would totally make sure there is a, fill in the blank.
Correct.
We asked our community a couple years ago in 2022, 2023 about the new playground in Bryan Park.
Okay.
And we got 400 responses from the community who had some input into what kind of playground equipment that they wanted. So it's what we call and I'm using air quotes here, the juvenile playground, so 5 through 12-year-olds.
Okay.
And what our community told us was that they wanted challenge. They wanted to climb. They want height.
Okay.
So we have now in Bryan Park, in case you haven't been there yet.
haven't.
I'm throwing it out there. Challenge down that we have the only warped wall in the city park system. So you run up this warped wall. You've seen American Ninja Warrior, the shows like that, where you run up the curved wall.
Yeah.
You run up the curved wall, and then you use a fireman's pole to slide down. So challenge done in that park or the playground at Bryant Park. And our community also wanted accessibility.
Okay.
So that kids who maybe use a wheelchair or even adults that are mobility challenged in some way can access the platforms and the face-to-face swings and things like that. So we really tried to incorporate some public input into those kinds of things. And I think that's the way the world is going. And every time we create something new or do master plans or park designs, that we definitely want to hear from our community about what kinds of things they want to see in their parks and play spaces.
See, you all are already doing the great work. And I think that's where public health is moving towards. We do have the researchers and the scientists, but the researchers and scientists does not necessarily know what people in the community want. And I feel they should match up together, because you don't want to create something that people don't see culturally relevant to what their needs. And so I love that. And I wish we would do more of that, where we get more people together to tell us what they want. Blank checks for everybody, right? Because if they create it, more than likely they're going to use it. And what power that is when you have ownership for not only your idea, but getting more people to use the idea that you created. And so I love that. I think if we could continue that model in Bloomington, oh my gosh, we would be the best place on earth to live, work, play, and pray. But that's great. I didn't even know that actually happened in Bryant Park, and I am going to visit it.
Well, I can't wait to get your feedback. So I hope to have you on our podcast again someday soon to talk about public health in parks. Again, Priscilla Barnes with the School of Public Health Bloomington. Thank you so much for being our guest on the podcast today.
Thank you so much for having me.
And out there in podcast land, thank you so much for tuning in to Recreation Rendezvous at the junction of nature and play. A big shout out to the Banneker Community Center, who hosts our state-of-the-art podcast studio. And as always, our podcast wizard, Caleb Poor, who puts it all together and makes it sound awesome. Till next time, find us where you find your favorite podcast, Recreation Rendezvous. I'm Julie Ramey with Bloomington Parks and Recreation.